Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gilda Evans, bringing you the Autism Resource Podcast. This podcast and the ARP website are your one-stop knowledge and resource base for autism and much more. I'm very pleased to have Katherine Gyolai join me as my guest today. As a mom and stepmom to 8 children, 4 of whom have intellectual and/or developmental disabilities, Katherine founded Find Love Safely to provide a safe, supported way for her children to form relationships. In addition to running Find Love Safely, Katherine is a marketing consultant for a healthcare startup and an International Coaching Federation certified executive and team coach. Welcome, Katherine, and thank you so much for taking the time to join me and discuss the work that you do.
Thank you, Gilda. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to come and have a chat with you on your podcast.
To begin with, why did you start Find Love Safely, and why is this mission so important to you?
Great question. As you mentioned in the intro, that I have 8 children and stepchildren, 4 that have an intellectual or developmental disability. And when my son, who has Down syndrome, was 20, he came to his dad and I and asked if he could download a popular dating app. And that really struck panic and heartbreak in us because both he and his older brother, who also has disabilities, had been victims of online scamming in really pretty terrible ways. So we knew that an online dating experience for him was not going to be successful. And it was really scary for us. So I began to look for safe and supported ways that I could help him find relationship. Love on the Spectrum had just gone through its surge of popularity. I think season 2 had just wrapped, and the world was starting to take notice that the IDD population also wants love and connection. And so I thought that there must be something out there that would help facilitate my son finding a relationship. And there was just nothing that existed that felt safe enough. And so that was the birth of Find Love Safely. I socialized it with other parents and other disability organizations to gain their feedback, to get their reactions, and quickly found that this is an unmet need, a deep unmet need. And I was in a place in my life where it made sense to be able to see where this entrepreneurial journey took me. And so I created Find Love Safely. Actually, we launched 1 year ago today, Gilda. It's our 1 year anniversary today.
Wow, congratulations. How
Thank you.
auspicious. Thank you for
Thank
letting me
you.
know that.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. What has been the reaction from the community so far? What sort of feedback have you gotten?
The reaction from the community has been just overwhelming and then overwhelmingly positive. I have family members reaching out to me from cities all across the United States saying, please, can we get one of these here? What advice do you have? My child is lonely. They are having terrible experiences online. How can I help them find what you've created? Because right now we are in 8 locations, but because I care deeply about this in-person connection, the concept of in-person connection, I think we've gone the wrong direction as it relates to our loved ones with disabilities and technology. Technology is fabulous. I'm a big fan of technology, but in the realm of relationship, it can be dangerous place for our loved ones. And so I'm really all about this in-person connection. And so what Find Love Safely is built on location based. So we have 8 locations right now. So getting back to what I was saying, we have parents, siblings of loved ones with disabilities all over saying, please, can we get this here? When can you launch here? And I tell them, we are trying to grow really fast. We're excited to grow, but we have to scale in a smart way that is sustainable and allows us to continue to offer this service. But my dream, my vision is to have a Find Love Safely in every major city in the United States. People have just been really receptive. They have said there is a deep need for this, and no one has figured out how to solve that until now. So it fills me with lots of joy to be able to bring this solution to the world.
It sounds wonderful to have a safe place where our loved ones who may have intellectual challenges or other types of challenges can go and feel safe and have trust and have someone to guide them or help to guide them through that journey and hopefully find the companionship that they're looking for. I think that's absolutely wonderful. So tell me a little bit more about how it works. Is it an app? Guide me through the process a little bit.
You bet. It is definitely not an app and it is not a dating platform, and that surprises people. But I really believe that we have to take it back 200 years ago as it relates to dating and connection for the IDD population. So we are not an app. We are an old school matchmaking service, like back in 200 years ago when the woman in the village said, "Hey, I know somebody in this village who I think you'd be a great match with. Let's connect the two of you." If somebody were interested, they would go to our website, findlovesafely.com, and you would click on the location that you were interested in. We also have lots of information on the website about the different programs, our membership options, our workshops, our coaching. And so all of that is contained on our website. But let's say you had decided that you wanted to sign up to be a member. You would find your location. Again, we have 8 locations. They are Boston, Denver, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul area where I live. And then there's 4 locations in California: Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. So you would go there, you would find your location, and you would choose which membership that you wanted. All 3 of our membership tiers include personalized matchmaking. That is the bread and butter of what we do. And so our core program is personalized matchmaking. And in addition to that, it is free admission to events. We love to have social events in that community when we have a big enough member base to be able to really support that event and hosting that event. So that's our core membership. Many members choose that second tier, which is called our Essentials program. That includes the personalized matchmaking and the free admission to events when we have them. And then it also includes a third thing, which is these virtual workshops, twice monthly virtual workshop series, where we go through very basic but so important relationship skills, social skills. So one workshop might be called, "What is a good friendship?" Another might be called, "How do I trade information in a safe way?" Another might be boundaries. Another might be about rejection. How do I handle rejection? How do I ask for a second date? Things like that. So we have 24 of those in a year. They're hosted virtually and they are for all of our members. That's the Essentials program. We added that recently because we were getting lots of feedback that, okay, it's great that people can go on a date. That's fabulous. But oftentimes, my child, in some examples, doesn't know what to do on that date. They don't know what's appropriate information to trade. And so, this is our response to that, to say, yeah, you're right. How can we come around these individuals with disabilities in a more comprehensive way to be able to provide the skills they need to be successful on these dates that we're setting them up on? And then the third tier is the concierge tier, which is everything I've just mentioned. So it's the personalized matchmaking, the free admission to local events when available, the virtual workshops, and then also monthly one-on-one coaching with one of our coaches. You can also add, any of the tiers can add one-on-one coaching, as many or as few as you want for an additional option. So you would go to your location, you would choose which program that you want, you sign up. Once we have your registration, what I do is I send out an email to the new member saying, here are the next steps. Please schedule your intro call with your matchmaker, your local matchmaker. And so that's an opportunity for the member and the matchmaker to have a conversation. So we matchmakers can really get to know the member. We can find out what they're looking for. We can understand what makes them tick, what kind of a living situation are they in. And it's also enables us to engage their level of support needs so that we can make matches that are compatible. Because the truth is, this model doesn't work if we're matching somebody who has a full-time job and drives and lives alone with somebody who's nonverbal in a group home. It just wouldn't work. So it allows us to gauge compatibility, intellectual and developmental compatibility. It's also a great time for people to ask us questions. And that intake call is where we discuss caregiver involvement. So we really customize caregiver involvement to what that individual wants. So if they are really independent and they don't want mom or dad or sister to be able to have anything to do with their dating life, they can be that sole point of contact. We can match member to member. In some cases, like for me, when I built the model, I built it essentially based on what I would want as a mother and guardian and caregiver. I don't want everybody having my son's email address and phone number. I wish fewer people had it because he gets scammed and that's a whole complicated thing. So I'm protective of that. And so I, as the guardian, want to be that sole point of contact for initial matches, right? After they make a match, great, let's let them get to know each other. But I think it's important. Some caregivers really just say, my child doesn't have an email address. They don't have that technology. It's not safe enough. So we customize caregiver involvement. We have that intake call. We determine exactly how much caregiver involvement you want. Then we go and we make your profile page. It's a PDF, so it's not a database online. People can't search online for eligible members. And it has your photo, your age, the city that you live in, and a little bit about you. And then at the bottom, it has who they should contact if they're interested in getting to know you. And when we find a match, we email those to both people and we say, hey, we think you guys might be a match. Here's how you would go about getting together. I'm very passionate. This is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll pause, Gilda, because I know I've said a lot, but I'm very passionate about no ghosting. I believe strongly, very strongly, that we, parents, family members, those of us who would self-identify as relatively neurotypical, that we need to model how to say no and be comfortable saying no in a kind, respectful, and polite way. And so not everybody is going to be a match. We have people who ghost, or we have caregivers who just say, oh, I didn't want to make them feel bad. And so I just lied and said that we're in a relationship. And so my policy is just no. We have got to model how to say no, thank you, but we wish you the best on your journey. Some parents ask me, how do you take the rejection out of it? How do you prevent them from getting rejected? And I say, I don't. We, as parents of kids who have disabilities, adult children who have disabilities, what do we want? We want them to have typical experiences. Rejection is one of those typical experiences. They might experience it at work, with friendships, with relationships. And so that's not something we can protect them from, but it is something we can teach them how to cope with. So that's one of the things that we also do is we have some caregiver blogs that support that journey. We have member videos that support that journey. And it's really an all-encompassing support system for caregivers and people with intellectual and developmental disabilities on the journey of finding relationship.
It is really obvious that a lot of care and thought has gone into this process as you have developed it along the way. I do have a couple of questions, though. You mentioned the intake call, for example. When somebody approaches you and let's say they are nonverbal or they are hard of hearing, how do you handle those particular challenges when you are interacting with a potential client?
Yeah. Often in those cases, those members would have a support person near them. And so that support person could help us either understand what they're saying or translate. And that's what we have in place today. We, of course, hope to have multiple languages supported. We hope to have multiple ASL for those who maybe just sign, adaptive devices, things like that. So as we grow, we absolutely have our eyes set on being able to support people wherever they are. Typically today, what that looks like is the caregiver being part of those intake calls. And typically, I would say the people that would have some of the needs that you're describing would also want their caregiver involved in the process. And so we have them to be able to support that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then the question that might be on a lot of people's minds as they're listening to this, what about the cost? How does someone afford it? If they can't afford it, let's say on a private pay basis, do you work with, for example, here in California, would you work with self-determination, or in other states, as it's called, self-direction? What are other options that people can avail themselves of to be able to afford this service?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that. We are working with the regional centers to see Find Love Safely as an approved service. We are not vendored with the regional centers. However, we have been approved through several regional centers for self-determination program through SDP.
In California.
In California, yes, thank you. And so as we know, the regional centers operate relatively independently from one another. And so some have embraced it right away. Some have said, we need to look into this dating thing. It's really, Find Love Safely is so much more than a dating app or service. It is about really teaching these relationship skills. I meant to also mention, and I'm going to go back to your question, Gilda, but I also realized I failed to mention that we match for romantic relationships and friendships. So lots of people come to us and just say, I want to meet more friends. I want to expand my social circles. I want to have a different kind of community of friends. And so we do that as well. So getting back to your question, SDP, more and more we are onboarding with different FMS providers and getting approval through the regional centers to be billed through SDPs. So absolutely, if you're in California, I suggest that you talk to your independent facilitator and ask them whether Find Love Safely would support your goals in your plan. And if so, what would need to happen for it to be approved for your plan as one of your services? We can easily, within a day, get onboarded with the FMS providers. So on our end, that's pretty simple, but it is approved on a regional center case by case basis. In other states, we are exploring that and expanding on that. In Minnesota, we are able to build the CDCS program. That's what ours is called in Minnesota, Consumer Directed Client Services, I believe. CDCS. And so that's like our SDP in Minnesota. So we're able to bill that as long as it always depends, of course. But if Find Love Safely aligns with your goals, then that is something you should definitely talk to your case manager about. I never make any promises, but that's a really good lead for CDCS. And then in other states, we're exploring that as well, like self-direction out in the Boston area. You asked about price. So for our core program, it's $349 a year. So if you private pay, that's what that is. It's not as much as some matchmaking services, but I understand that is out of the budget for many individuals. If they have SDP or CDCS or other things like that, then we can work with that system, with that platform. The Essentials program is $1,299 a year for the access to the 24 virtual workshops and the matchmaking and the local events when available. You can pay monthly on that one, but it's a 3-month minimum. And then the concierge program with that one-on-one coaching is $2,799 a year. So that's our pricing.
All right. Thank you for sharing that information. And to wrap things up here, without naming names, can you share any success stories with me? And what's your vision for the future of Find Love Safely?
My first and favorite success story is my son, for whom I started Find Love Safely. In fact, today is his 1-year anniversary with his girlfriend, who he met at our launch event, our Valentine's Day launch event last year. Could you script that any better? It's amazing. So Nicholas and Stella, and these success stories are on our website. Again, that's findlovesafely.com. So you're welcome to go to our website and see some of our success stories. So I can name some names because I've gotten permission to talk about them. So Nicholas and Stella are completely in love. It's just beautiful. He is the reason that I started this. He is the catalyst for Find Love Safely, and he's very happy with Stella, and we're very happy with Stella, and it's just a wonderful situation all around. In fact, as soon as we are done recording this podcast, I'm going to take off. We're meeting at the Mall of America. We're meeting Stella and her mom for a double date. Such because I said anytime Nicholas and Stella go on a date, Michelle and I go on a date too, and we give them their space. But Michelle's become a dear friend to me, so it's wonderful. We also have probably 10 long-term couples that have formed by now. There've been hundreds and hundreds of dates between our members. We have 190 members now across our 8 locations. And so many have had multiple dates with multiple people. I would have thought when I created Find Love Safely that success was defined as ending up in a long-term relationship. And I define success entirely differently now. Sometimes success is simply if you start at a speed dating event and you're hunched over and you are unable to make eye contact, but then at the end of that speed dating event, you're not hunched over anymore and you are able to make eye contact and maybe even ask that person at the other end of the table a question, that's an enormous success. That is maybe 20 years of speech therapy coming to fruition right in front of the family's eyes. And success is just so many wonderful things for this population. We also have another success story is a woman named Elise. I happened to get to see her last night at our speed dating event. When I had her intake call, she just said, I want to meet all the people. I'm so excited. Just connect me to friends, connect me. I want to go on dates. And she just absolutely leaned in fully and met so many people that in about 3 months, her mom emailed me and said, we've got to pause her membership because her social calendar is so full. I can't keep up with this. Please don't send us any more people. And that alone is just so heartwarming. We get success stories all the time, and it's so rewarding.
That really is wonderful to hear. And thank you so much for sharing that. So, share with me a little bit then, Katherine, about your vision for the future of Find Love Safely.
Yeah, so I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I'll say it again. My vision for Find Love Safely is to have one of these in every major city in the United States so that we can reach more individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, that we can have a location in all the major areas for them to be able to date. I also have visions of Find Love Safely being the thought leader in the relationship and social skills space for the IDD population. We have been asked by disability organizations for our curriculum that we can either present to their population, to their clients, or that they can present. And so we have a curriculum that disability organizations can purchase that we are able to present, or we can hand it off to them to do that for their members. And so Find Love Safely is really becoming so much more than where it started a year ago, which is a matchmaking service. It is now becoming the go-to for relationship skill building in this population. It's such a wonderful surprise. I didn't see that coming, and I'm just so excited to be able to really provide more than just matchmaking to the intellectually and developmentally disabled population.
Katherine, it sounds wonderful, and I can't wait to stay in touch and see how you grow and see where this goes from here. And I just want to thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a wonderful conversation. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they can do that by going to the website. You can get a hold of our matchmakers there or me. You can submit a contact form. We'd love to talk to you.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other popular platforms. We'd appreciate you taking the time to leave us a review. You can also listen to the podcast on YouTube at ARP Social, where you'll find bonus content, and be sure to follow us on Facebook or Instagram to get up-to-date notifications about the latest news and episodes. If you would like more information on anything else we've covered on the Autism Resource Podcast, visit us online at autismresourceproject.org/podcast. Be sure to check out our growing website often, since we are continually adding useful information and resources. I want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. This is the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life.